Why do people go on adventures, pilgrimages and quests? Is it just to escape everyday life? Maybe it's to push our limits, or to find out who we are. It's hard to put into words why we do the things we do. And so much of our life's choices are often found in feelings. Fickle as feelings can be, so much of the human experience is felt, and not always understood. Ahead of me lies a gentle 16-mile hike through the Witham Valley, from the birthplace of Stephen Langton to the guardian of the city, Lincoln Cathedral. Hidden behind large farm buildings and overgrown trees stands our starting point. So we're here at Langton by Rugby, at the St. Giles Church, where we're about to start our pilgrimage. Inside the church, it's full of references to Stephen Langton. Now, he was a man not too dissimilar to the likes of our local legend Robin Hood. He stood up against corruption and tyranny. He believed that the rulers of this world must serve truth and not power, grounding his resistance in scripture and theology. So I'm just setting out on the walk. I'm here at Langton by Rugby, the start of the pilgrimage. I've just been to St. Giles Church, had a look around. So yeah, we're heading out. Setting off from the church had so many different tasks. I wanted to tell the story of Stephen Langton, shoot great footage, and somehow be fully present on the walk. Within the first kilometre I knew I'd set my expectations far too high. Sort of in the first couple of kilometres of the pilgrimage at the moment is I'm so distracted by the fact that I'm trying to make a film about this, and I feel like pulled in lots of different ways, so this shall be interesting. But look at this next little spot. Pull me out of the storm, I'll be alright. Give me a pillow to lay my head on. The accuser set to work immediately, telling me that I was unprepared, out of my depth, and that the whole experience would just be another waste of time. I'd come home with zero usable footage, no story, and sunstroke. All this fear of productivity and the scarcity of the day running away from me led me to take a wrong turn. And again, that familiar voice set to work, louder this time. So I just took a wrong path, retracing my steps and coming back to a way marker. That set me on musing about the times where we take the wrong path in life, and you have that instant panic that, oh no, that's going to set everything off. It means I've made a mistake, I've ruined the whole project, all that sort of stuff. And I know we can be like that when we make mistakes in our lives, in our relationships. It's like there's no recovery. Retrace your steps and start again. I reflected on the piece that I'd just shot to camera, knowing full well the grace that I'd given to the world I wouldn't give to myself. These thoughts were cut short when I hit a border of a large farm complex and was greeted by a very angry looking dog. And he seemed to be very good at his job. So not wanting to find out, I cleared the farm boundary quickly, and safely on the other side of a 6-foot metal fence, I sat down for a quick drink. While I was sitting there, one of the farm owners passed me from the other direction, signposting where I needed to go next. Now my mind had started to calm, and I was beginning to accept the film wouldn't be perfect. So I went with it, placing one foot in front of the other. I wanna wander out of the valley, where the river takes us far away from home. Time to ponder in the fields around me, where there's nothing but the breeze and the great unknown. Leave your worries and your suitcase. All you don't need, nothing but you. So don't throw your hopes down a wishing well. It's your heart's desire carry you. The midday sun was starting to heat up, and with a heavy bag and no sign of cover, I set out to find some trees for shade and something to eat. So I just got my first glimpse of Lincoln Cathedral. I was thinking about what it must have been like back in the old days when the guys were doing this pilgrimage, and getting that first glimpse of it on the horizon, something like I obviously take for granted. I live in the city, I see the cathedral every day, but for someone who was making a journey to see it, knowing it's still so far away, but that sort of reassurance where they're going exists almost. Like, I've really been struck by the concept of the Pilgrim's Path and the story around that, and this idea of, like, if we had a glimpse of the destination, how much more encouraging would that be? For a pilgrim trekking these paths, this would have been the spot where they first saw a clear destination for their journey. It was no longer abstract. The end was in sight. Miles away, but in sight. I thought a lot about how often in life not having a destination can lead to feeling lost, stagnant and stuck. I also know that punching through one glass ceiling only leads to another. So the typical Christian response to this might be, heaven is our destination, life is the journey, but how much easier would that journey be if we could already see heaven in the distance calling us onward? I arrived at a bridge thinking I'd hit the Witham. Later to find out it was just a beck running behind the abbey ruins. The bridge acted as a gateway to these lost ruins, sitting proud in an empty field. I lived on and off in this county for 30 years and had no idea they were there. I guess you can go a whole lifetime and never stop to take in where you are and what's around you. This old abbey at one time would have influenced the world around it, and now it stands here in ruin, mostly forgotten. Just landed at these ruins. I'm not sure what they're called. Low Barlins ruins. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place to look through. I push on through another open section of fields. I could start to feel myself burning, and the weight of the camera gear was becoming a burden. I found a way marker under a tree and removed my sweaty, drenched t-shirt. And then a cool breeze blew down the shaded alleyway. I took a few minutes to kneel down and rest in the moment. And after a handful of jelly babies and a quick outfit change, I was on the trail again. Let's just check the map because I'm not sure where we're going. It wasn't long before I started to see signs of civilization. Arriving at Fiskerton, where I would connect to the Witham. As I got closer to the river, I could hear the sound of people playing in the water. I closed in on the sounds and a familiar bridge appeared. I'd made it to the water railway. A stretch of tarmac running from Lincoln to Bardney and beyond. I know this path well from cycling up and down it. I stopped on the bridge to take in the view. In the distance stood the cathedral and the river winding its way up to the city. As I stood there taking it in, one of the young lads who had been playing in the river asked me if everything was alright. He was slightly concerned, suspicious, as if I was some kind of river ranger coming to ruin their fun. To put the lads at ease, I asked their opinion on the best route back to the city. On realising I wasn't the fun police, they were all eager to help, discussing the pros and cons to the parallel routes back to the city. I carried on past their bikes and the makeshift trailer that they'd carried their kayak on. For a moment I felt like Mr. Toad. Believe me, my young friends, there was nothing half so much worth doing as simply messing about in boats. Now on the tarmac I was able to pick up my pace and I marched along the railway. Now frequently seeing walkers, cyclists, people fishing. It's deep on the Witham now. Final stretch to get to Lincoln itself before the uphill climb towards the cathedral. I was on the home stretch and trying to collect my thoughts on the day. In an effort to capture these thoughts, I sat down for a cup of tea and decided I'd do a diary-style entry to the camera. But for whatever reason, the microphone disconnected and recorded nothing. Yeah, that's me, solving the world's problems, and no one can hear it. I started to pack up my gear, and with this being the longest I'd sat down all day, I could feel my muscles tightening. But I was soon into the rhythm again. Round every corner the cathedral grew closer and closer, and the hum of the city grew louder. The familiarity of the walk began to take over, hitting autopilot all the way to the city lock. This threshold to the city was the last marker before stepping fully back into the pace of the day's rush hour. quickly pulled into a corner shop to grab a much needed drink, and continued up to my final ascent of Lincoln's infamous steep hill. Being a local though, I took myself up a quieter path to the castle square, where I was greeted with hundreds of people queuing to see a concert. I'd hoped to get a pint in the Magna Carta pub before getting to the cathedral, but with all the concert goers, I headed straight to the finish line and parked myself on the grass in the shadow of the towers. This was it. I'd done what I'd set out to do. But with the call of responsibility and home life not far from my mind, I couldn't linger for too long. I used these last couple of kilometres home to lean into what I may have learned. First and foremost, a bad day out adventuring is better than a good day sat in an office. But I guess the real lesson? The walk was a mirror, an amplifier of many aspects of how I view myself. Rushing to succeed, a fear of the passing of time, that feeling of being underprepared or an imposter, a desire for excellence but only the capacity for mediocrity. Wanting to strike out ahead only to find out that I'm still on my own, never feeling worthy. But in the backdrop of all these thoughts, the walk gifted me a prayer that is featured in many people's lives, a prayer that seeks to separate the lies from the truth. Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.